Super Bowl was in Indianapolis a number of years ago. And I volunteered for the Super Bowl, and I will never forget this. It was about an hour before game time. I was running back to my car, and I was running back to my car to go home to watch the game. And as I was running back to the car, I ran into a guy who was obviously not very well-to-do, and he had his family with him. And it was a man, a woman, and their 2 kids, probably about 6 and 8 years old. The man was carrying a sign. This was an hour before the Super Bowl in downtown Indianapolis. The sign said, "Willing to do almost anything legal for Super Bowl tickets." And I walked by him and I said, "How's that working out for you?" He said, "Not too well so far." I said, "Okay, well, good luck with that." So I walked up the street and I approached a security tent that was checking security to get into the game. And at that moment, it just so happened that a guy in a 3-piece suit came out and had a fistful of Super Bowl tickets in his hand. And he walked out, and I stopped, and he said to the officer that was standing at the security tent, he said, "Hey man, I got a fistful of Super Bowl tickets here that I got to get rid of in a hurry to somebody who really deserves them." So me, with my Super Bowl jacket, my pass on, I'm all, hey, check it out. I'm a volunteer, worked really hard. I deserve this, right? I deserve those tickets, right? And he goes, no, you're not my guy. The officer then said, "Hold on a second, I got your guy." That officer ran up the street, grabbed that man and his family, brought them back to that security tent, and he said to them, "Here's your guy right here." So the guy in the 3-piece suit, this kind of CEO-looking guy, he said, "Hey, how's your sign working out for you?" And the guy says, "Well, I haven't got any hits yet." So the guy says, "Well, listen, let me ask you a question." He said, "What is your favorite soft drink? What do you guys drink at home?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't know, my family and I, we're Pepsi drinkers." The guy then says, "Congratulations. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for Pepsi-Cola Company. Here's 4 free Super Bowl tickets. You and your wife and your kids, go have a good time. You better head up the street. The game starts in 30 minutes. Talk about the element of surprise. That guy never would have suspected that. Never would have suspected that. So that element of surprise, whether it's outside the classroom or inside the classroom, can make a huge, huge difference. So you've seen that by doing good deeds for others, learning not to fear communication, and losing that sense of entitlement, the next generation can be even better than what they already are. So I want to close by coming back to that story that I told you earlier. Remember the email that I shared with you? Remember that email? I want to finish that email because I think it really makes a profound difference. So that email, if you remember, he was thanking me for helping him. So he continued on with that email by saying, "Listen, I know my grades may not have been what I envisioned at the beginning of the semester, but all things considered, I'm very happy to finish with a B in my classes." Now, let me tell you what all things considered means. This is a 2-tour of duty Iraq veteran who enrolled in classes. In January, he foreclosed on his house. In February, his best friend and army buddy committed suicide. In March, his wife served him divorce papers. And in May, he finished the semester. Any one of those would be a rough semester for anybody. He finished that. And I'll tell you what, how I met up with him, I simply saw him in the hallway and I said these 3 key words to him. I wasn't even thinking about it. I just said, "Hey, Jason, how you doing?" And he unloaded for 20 minutes about all of those things I just told you about. So he continued on. He said, "I just want you to know that regardless of how I do in this class, my speech class has been the most important learning event in my life. When I gave my speech about the Wounded Warriors Foundation, it never ceased to amaze me how complete strangers can make the most profound impact on your life. And I want you to know that hearing the people support my organization, the Wounded Warriors Foundation, when they had the chance to support their own, was one of the greatest achievements of my life. I never knew I had the power to touch someone in that way. It was great to hear support for something so personal and so real to me. And I would never have been able to do that without your help. So thank you, Mr. Mike, for sticking with me, and thank you for being an inspiration that made me want to succeed. 3 little words. How are you doing? Made that much of a difference. When those students were anonymously asked on that survey I talked about earlier, and I said to the students on the survey, I said, simply put, what do you want from your professors? One student put it best when they said, look at your students on that first day. Realize that they are staring at you, waiting to learn something useful, and they want you to motivate them. Stay happy and enthusiastic, because you are changing people's lives. We are in the inspiration business. I'd like for you to stand up. Very loudly and very proudly, like you really mean it, repeat after me. I was born to teach.
I was born to teach.
I teach to live.
I teach to live.
And I live to impact.
I live to impact.